Good morning, everybody. Well, it's morning for me. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you might be. I wasn't really planning on filming anymore on the endless, mind-numbing sanding, oiling, sanding, oiling, sanding, oiling. But as I got started this morning, I thought there's a few things I'm doing that I might share with you all. Oh, and one thing that's really exciting. So I'm on the second coat of oil. The first one, the stock looked really brown. You couldn't see any color. That's the way it always looks. It's full of 80 grit sanding scratches. So I sanded that all the way down and got down to 120. Did a quick 320 on it just because I can't wait to see it, how it looks. And another coat of oil, and you know what? It was a huge surprise. There is a lot of figure in this, and you probably can't see yet, just barely a hint of all these little vertical lines of the wrinkled wood look that we call figure. And so a few more coats of oil. I'll get some pictures out in the sun where we can really make it pop. You know, it's light figure. You know, it doesn't really just jump out at you like a $1,000 figured piece of wood would do. But I was really surprised. I didn't expect to see that in here, and it's going to turn out to be gorgeous. I'm seeing it right now. I don't know if you can see it, but it's like almost fully figured, light, but it's all along the length of the wood. Really incredible. And it's little surprises like that that make I guess you could say, an attractively priced piece of wood, an affordably priced piece of wood, become a real gem once you get sanding and polishing on it and find out that it was a gem in the rough, and we just didn't know. So I'm sanding now with 220. I only have one sheet left. Might have to go to the hardware store if I run out, but I think it might be enough to do what I need to do. And now we're on the second coat and getting a little finer grit sandpaper going on. I could start spotting some areas of scratches from the 80 grit level. You probably can't see it, but there's an area right here, another area right here that are now visible that weren't visible before. You know, one thing that's curious to me, I can never make things be completely symmetrical one side or the other, and I was just looking at this morning. I don't know, maybe it's like a woman. I shouldn't say this. You know, one side's bigger than the other. It's just how God made it. Anyway, visually, no, it is. This is wider than this. But I put the action in there and sight down along the side of the breech block and the barrel, and this channel is parallel to the barrel and the breech block. I used a pair of calipers and measured the width. It's exactly the same from one side to the other. The forearm here, if you look along this edge and this edge, they are really close to each other, not as big a difference as this appears to be. You feel it in your hand. Both sides feel perfectly the same and symmetrical. And yet down here, visually, no, it is wider. It's not just visual, but one side's wider than the other. I just don't think it matters. It's handmade, right? It's not CNC production. None of them ever come out exactly the same on both sides. Even down in here you can see that this side appears to be a little thicker. Yeah, I just don't want to take more material off though, because it's got a really nice feel to it. If I took this down more to make the width appear the same to the other side, I would definitely be losing this curve. So it is what it is, and if the customer doesn't like it, well, I'll put some more effort into it, but you know, I just don't think it's a big deal myself. Alright, so I'm going to do some more sanding because as I'm working there's different thoughts that occurred to me that you might find of value. One is, as the grit of the paper loads up, I use a stiff, this is a broken piece of a shop brush that works good for this. It's kind of a stiff bristle, and just clean it off. I usually do it down here near the floor. In the coarser grits, especially if the I've got a couple of 4x8, 4x10s here that I stand on because the table's too high, so that's why I get up high here. But when you're working with, like when I'm making masters and doing Bondo, the Bondo gets caught up in the paper. And if your oil isn't completely cured and so it balls up corns in the paper, it'll be the same kind of situation. And then I use a wire brush to clean out the grit. Anyway, here we go. Turkey season opens tomorrow. I'm pretty excited about it. Going to go do some more scouting today. Studied the topo map, and I used Google satellite view, zoomed way in on the area, and then took endless screenshots of it. I did find an online solution where supposedly you can zoom way in on Google and then tell it how big an area to screenshot instead of just doing the little bit that you can get on what appears on your screen. That did not really work out for me at any appreciable level that made sense, so just did it the old-fashioned way. Lots of screenshots and put it all together in Photoshop. And then took the hunting boundary map, blew it up to match the same scale, and overlaid it on top, traced that with the pen tool. Actually, I used the paintbrush tool. And now I've got something I can zoom in on. I put it on my website in a secret page. It's just for me. I don't think anybody else wants to use that, but I'm going to take the laptop with me so I can look. You know what I really want is a drone. I think it'd be really cool to use a drone for hunting and fishing to find access trails, and you know what you see on the satellite view, you can't tell the terrain too well. You know, some of these areas that look good may actually be super steep, and you know, you're going to be a mountain goat to get to them. And then the same thing with fly fishing. I think it'd be great to be able to fly a drone over an area. And I know the kind of water I like to look for on trout streams. Plunge pools after a riffle. So look, you know, fly the drone and look for those kinds of holes and look for the access trails to them. It could save a lot of time, money, over hiring a guide who knows where all those are. Yeah, this is looking really great. You know, one thing that can be a little confusing is, are those sanding scratches or is it grain? But I see here, there's a whole area right here of sanding scratches that I just discovered. I'm going to flip this around and probably be showing you my back, unfortunately. Maybe not. Not that I'm doing anything that you really need to look at. And my girlfriend's going to go see her mother in San Francisco tomorrow, so she would normally be coming. Oh, here's some corns. There's some corns building up here. That's less than fully cured oil building up. So anyway, because she's going to San Francisco tomorrow, I'm going hunting. Then she's off all next week. I'll probably be leaving her home a few times at 5 a.m. Hunting public land. Oh yeah, these sanding scratches are really revealing themselves now. hunting public land. I don't expect to be very successful. And since I'm going out tomorrow on opening day, I'll be curious to see how crowded it is out there. One year, years ago, I went out on opening day in the Knoxville BLM area, and all the little tiny parking availabilities on the side of the road were filled. So I realized as soon as I got there, I'm not hunting today. So I just slowly drove along. And there were turkeys squawking everywhere. And not one of them was real. It was so funny. That's hunting public land in California. Oh yeah, they're about 80% gone now. As we go along with the finishing process, it's going to start looking fantastic. But every time you sand it down and make it look horrible, the next coat of oil, it's going to look better than it ever did. So don't be afraid as you go along to sand off your oil, because the more and more of these previous grit sanding scratches you can remove, the more the color and figure are going to pop. Because it's all these little sanding scratches that diffract, I guess, light, is that the right word? And scatter the light, and doesn't allow the color and figure to show through as good as when the wood is really polished. And by polished, I mean all the sanding scratches removed. So now I see another little area. You just can't see these until you start working it. Probably going to have to change up the paper in a minute. I'm being a little more conservative with it than I usually do. It's starting to get a little hard to work. I usually advocate be ruthless with your use of paper. It's only money, right? But in this case, it's a trip to the store and I want to go hiking. So I'm going to try to make this one sheet of paper last, and I'll stop later and get some more 220. Alright, now we're getting heated up. Another little area right here. You can, what I just did is I just felt on the paper to find where I still have some good roughness, and then you can, put a little focus on that section of paper. I've been dieting like crazy lately. Not that I'm horrendously overweight. I lift weights, do my sit-ups and push-ups. I'm going to be 60 years old next month, and I can still do 12 push-ups on my toes. Thank you very much. But I've been running around 195, and that's about 10 pounds more than I'd like to be. Gotta look good for the summertime, right? I tuck in my shirt and look like a puffed shirt, slim-waisted guy. Keep the doctor away. I was thinking I ought to do a series on a video series on exercises for the outdoorsman. In other words, not somebody who's just trying to be a gym rat or a hard body. It's somebody that wants to be able to continue hunting and fishing and rock hopping for a good long time. And that's kind of my goal. That's my exercise routine is focused on. But, I think they're just kind of basic exercises. Maybe after I lose this 10 pounds and I look better, huh? To do an exercise routine right now, people will be like, yeah, that doesn't look like it works that good. Uh-huh. Looks really good there. Mm-hmm. But you know, the funny thing is, as good as it looks, after the next coat of oil, I'll find more. And you sand it down and keep going. It gets better and better every time. Alright, and I remember there was, we did this section. There's an area here. Yep, I see it right here. One trick to help see areas you missed, I almost hate doing it because you will always find areas you missed. But to wipe the wood down with a clean white paper towel, it does a pretty good job of removing the sanding dust from in the pores of the wood. Better even than using compressed air. And a lot of these sanding scratches are invisible until you get the dust wiped out of them. And so that's why I'm rubbing my hand over the work. Is just to get a little better view of it. Another thing that you can do to help tell if an area is properly sanded or not is if you see, and here's a spot that's an example, and I'm not really sure it'll show up in the camera, but here you might be able to see there's lines of mineral streaks going through here, and we should see these continue everywhere. But if you come to an area like right here, where basically it just looks all brown, and you can't see these distinct lines of grain running through, then that's an area that has sanding scratches that you can't see. That area of the wood is just not polished enough to reveal the character of the wood, because it's all those little microscopic sanding scratches. I'm not sure if diffraction is the right word here, but you know, I think they scatter the light and don't allow you to see what's in there. And especially around some hard to sand areas like the bottom of the pistol grip, you'll see lots of commercial and even custom stocks where you don't really see any figure or character going on in there, no real color, it's just kind of just brown. And that's because it's kind of hard to sand, but if you take the time to really polish that wood, there's another little detail that'll pop out. Same thing down in here. This is really hard to sand and get good, but if you do, you'll see these beautiful lines of grain going through. I call it nature's own laminate. Alright, enough talking, more sanding. I want to get out there on a hike. I better keep moving. I'm going to use some fingers on this. I use the sanding block as much as I can. Anyway, I'm pretty hungry. Last week I've been having a banana, a can of tuna, and half an avocado. Basically what I've been having throughout the course of the day. And in the evening I've been eating basically high protein, low carbs, heavy on the veggies. Although last night I ate a whole chicken. And that's all. I don't know if that was good diet or not. Knew it was yummy though, because come dinner time, I'm hungry. But it's okay to be hungry. It's uncomfortable, right? But I'm pretty sure being overweight is uncomfortable. I've been there. Just a matter of how you want to deal with your pain. All right, brushing and flossing your teeth a couple times, 3 times a day, whatever. That's a pain in the butt. But so is gum disease and losing your teeth. It's just a matter of how you choose your pain. Life has pain. And going to college and learning a career. That's painful, expensive, but it's also painful being underemployed your whole life. Like me. Yeah, I have a 2-year college education in mechanical design, and I did some further education, but then a lot of it is self-educated, and really that has become very apparent today that it doesn't matter you go to school to get your education, as long as you're educated. You gotta know how to do something. One of the best paying jobs you can do without an education is actuary. That and underwater welding, I think, are 2 things that you can be self-educated on. Well, I don't know about underwater welding. I bet they want you to have some paper or licensing. I really don't know anything about that. But I do know about actuary, that as long as calculus is your hobby and you're good at it and you can pass the tests for being an actuary, that is a very good paying career. And there was a time when I could do calculus. And I do trig regularly, certainly do algebra, but the kinds of things that in engineering we use calculus for these days, you're going to look up stuff on charts. Whatever equipment is you're trying to size, a manufacturer is going to give you all the information you need. You don't really have to calculate it. Alright, this paper is really getting wore. I would not normally have worked it so far. Now I hang on to these because these end sections that were held by the block, I'm going to tear those off and use them with my fingers around some of these curvy areas. Luckily this stock doesn't have a cheek piece or a rollover, because those are 2 additional hard to work areas. See, one thing you want to be careful with these things is this clip doesn't fall down and scratch the wood. This block doesn't seem to have that problem, but I've got another one around here, or at least I used to have one that like the clip like to fall down, and I'd tape it up. Tape it up to make sure it doesn't fall down and scratch the wood. That'd be bad. Around the curvy areas, I do a little circular motion, as you see I'm doing. You just go straight back and forth. You can't really... You want to let the random motion get everywhere. You just go straight back and forth on the really curvy areas. You're just going to make lines. Alrighty. Got this end to do. This is another area that's very difficult to sand well, and if you don't, it'll just look dark brown. But if you take the time to polish it, then all that little end grain is going to pop. Get the top of the forearm. We'll do some finger action around the curvy areas. I'd say you could probably figure an hour of sanding every time you sand. And typically I do probably on the order of 40 to 50 coats of oil and a sanding down every 3 to 6 coats. So you can see that you're looking at a good dozen to 20 hours of sanding and oiling to finish a stock, which is why there's no real money in this work. My other job doing web, I bill myself out at $150 an hour. Now I would love to make that kind of money doing gun stock work, but who would pay it? I guess if the carver was somebody super famous, super fancy. I'm neither. Alright, time for some 220 finger action. Coming up on 26 minutes. I've already been doing about 15 minutes. YouTube doesn't seem to like videos much longer than 30 minutes, so I'll cut this off in a bit. And actually, looking at my average watch time on my videos, it's a fraction. I think people log in and they go, yep, after 4 or 5 minutes, I get it. Don't need to watch the whole thing. Well, talking to the YouTube camera seems to come pretty natural to me because, well, I talk to myself when I'm working anyway. Oh, see, when you take the time to sand these hard areas, it makes the grain really pop out in very interesting ways. It's kind of like if you've seen laminate stocks, with the multicolored sheets of wood all glued together like plywood. In curvy areas of the stock, it displays, very interesting patterns as the curves intersect those laminations. And that's pretty much what we get with walnut, except that the nature zone laminations, they tend to curve and go in different directions, and as curves like what I'm doing right now intercept it, it reveals itself in very interesting ways. See, these little curves are very difficult to do. You go look in gun stocks in your own gun safe, and you'll see, if you look close, you'll see open grain pockets. When we're done with this, they will all be sealed. There will be no open holes. You'll see, if you look close, get it under the light, take it out in the sun, you'll see sanding scratches in areas. And if you see areas like I was saying a little bit ago that just look dull and brown, but right around it you can see there is grain, well, that's just an area that's full of sanding scratches, and it's not revealing the grain. Like here, for example, this is going to be really pretty. I'm going to go over the whole stock with 320 before I oil it, even though we're not really at the 320 stage. I'm just going to start tearing into this piece. But I like to get it started at the next grit as soon as I can, because it'll help the previous grit scratches stand out, the ones that I missed. And I'm not going to do a lot of 320, just kind of go over the whole stock, just like you see me doing now. So it's going to be another half hour of 320. And then oil, and I'll go hiking, scouting, and then this evening we'll be ready for another sanding, or depending upon time, I might just do another coat of oil. I don't like building up the oil too much until I really think I'm pretty much done sanding. But then even then, as the oil builds up, we don't want the oil to be built up on top of the wood, because that will diminish the appearance of the grain. I want the oil in the wood, not on top of the wood. So every half a dozen coats, even though there's no more sanding scratches to remove, it's still going to get sanded down. Yep, so it went from dark and oiled back to natural wood sanded look. But surprisingly, there is oil in the wood even now, after only 2 coats. And when I apply just 1 coat of oil to this when I'm done here in a half hour, it's going to pop better than it did before, and it's going to continue to improve as we go along. But I'm at 31 minutes now, so I'm going to sign off, and I'll check in later and see how this goes. I will probably turn this back on when I have thoughts to share. Bye, everybody.